There was audio leaked yesterday on the Intercept about the senator's conversations with big donors.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was on MSNBC's Morning Joe and brought up the fact that a huge story came out that right now isn't really being widely reported. Leaked audio from a meeting that Joe Manchin had with big donors. And there are some incredible revelations in that audio. So first here, if you want to listen to the full breakdown of this, check out the Intercept's Deconstructed podcast. I'll link to this below the video. The podcast is embedded in this. But here's their headline. Leaked audio of Senator Joe Manchin call with billionaire donors provides rare glimpse of deal-making on filibuster and January 6th commission. Manchin urged big money donors with no labels to talk to Senator Roy Blunt about flipping his vote on the commission in order to save the filibuster. I'm going to get to AOC's reaction to this in a second here, and I'm glad she brings this up because The Intercept will not be brought up on MSNBC, especially Morning Joe, apart from a guest doing it. But just to give you an idea of what went on here. So this was a meeting hosted by the group No Labels, a big money operation co-founded by former Senator Joe Lieberman that funnels high net worth donor money to conservative Democrats and moderate Republicans. And in this, a part of, one of the many revelations from this tape has Manchin telling the assembled donors that he needed to help flipping a handful of Republicans from no to yes on the January 6th commission in order to strip the far left of their best argument against the filibuster. The filibuster is a critical priority for the donors on the call as it bottles up progressive legislation and would hit their bottom lines. When it came to Senator Roy Blunt, a moderate Missouri Republican who voted no on the commission, Manchin offered a creative solution. Quote, Roy Blunt is a good friend of mine, a great guy, Manchin said. Roy is retiring. If some of you all who might be working with Roy in his next life could tell him, that'd be nice and it'd help our country. That would be very good to get him to change his vote. And we're going to have another vote on this thing. That'll give me one more shot at it. What Joe Manchin is saying here is basically telling these big donors, offer Roy Blunt some financial opportunities in the future when he retires, and do so in order for him to vote with us on this commission. This is everything wrong with Washington, D.C., the revolving door. Manchin here negotiating with billionaire donors to get them to influence Roy Blunt, another senator, so that he will change his vote to help Joe Manchin and his argument against the far left. Incredible. Now, let me play AOC's reaction to this. She brings this up into discussion on Joe Manchin on Morning Joe.
Joe Manchin put out a memo yesterday on this, and it is, probably the most significant existential, emotional issue. He is, of course, also at the center of the infrastructure talks. But on the voting rights thing in particular, both of you, do you think he's acting in good faith in proposing that compromise or not?
Yeah, I think, there was audio leaked yesterday on the Intercept about the senator's conversations with big donors and saying, hey, cut me a break on the commission. We should be negotiating with each other as colleagues, not with billionaires and donors, period. Our policies should be with other public servants and our colleagues, and that's not even negotiating with Republicans, elected officials. And so I think that, especially, again, when we talk about bipartisan deals, we should not be cutting out the big money provisions in H.R. 1, because the big money provisions are what's driving down wages, and big corporate lobbyists that have a disproportionate megaphone on Washington, more than working people do. They are the ones that are coming after the big money provisions in H.R. 1 the most. And by the way, those dark money groups are the ones that are purchasing these voter suppression campaigns and organizing in places like Georgia, Texas, Arizona, election challenges. And so we have to address all of it in this bill.
I mean, you ask why we don't have high-speed rail. It's the airline lobby, the oil lobby, the car lobby. Any state in the country that wants to invest in a new highway gets an 80 or 90% match. A new airport, new runway, 80% match from the federal government. High-speed rail, nothing. That's policy from Congress. And where do you think that came from?
Look, I think AOC should be on as many networks, on as many shows as possible. If not for anything else, then to just bring up reporting like this that will not see the light of day if it weren't for people like AOC bringing it up on these shows. And of course, I imagine MSNBC never played that audio, didn't discuss this issue, because CNN, MSNBC, they absolutely, and mainstream press in general, New York Times, Washington Post, they love Joe Manchin because to them, it represents the true center of America. When it's just complete bullshit, when you look at the actual polling on the issues, the vast majority of Americans side progressive on the issues. They support single-payer health care. They support raising wages. They support a higher corporate tax rate. But the way these media outlets represent politics in America, they represent it as, or they showcase it as the way Congress is set up. So they have this, the furthest left you can possibly get in the minds of these mainstream media outlets is AOC, and far right is Donald Trump, and Joe Manchin somewhere in the middle. The reality is, looking at the actual policy issues, the vast majority of Americans are with AOC. So it's not the far left. AOC is a moderate in terms of the actual how policies are viewed by the masses. So the way that politics is represented in the mainstream press is just completely out of whack. And these conversations about corporate influence on politics need to continue. And of course, ultimately, if we get to the heart of the issue, it's capitalism, and that's and its role in all of this. So, but that's, of course, that's a much different topic that will never be discussed on these networks. You're never going to see a socialist host any of these shows, for the obvious fact that this is a corporate network. These are corporate networks, corporate outlets that aren't going to represent a socialist view as the one that maybe makes the most sense. But anyways, different topic. But here, it was good to see AOC bring this reporting up and help to expose the corruption that isn't just Joe Manchin, but generally politics in Washington, D.C.